Hey everyone, back again with another video. I'm here today to talk more about workflow to flow migration tool. As many of you are already aware that Salesforce during Winter 22 release announced that they will be deprecating workflows and process builders and will be making Flow their one and only automation tool for admin going forward. Deprecating doesn't mean that they will be retiring this anytime soon, but they will basically mainly focusing more on flow. Eventually, they want to retire workflows and process builders, but there is no such announcement to retire those anytime soon. Plus, during Spring 22 release, they now provided for users a new tool for them to migrate from workflow to flow using clicks. So I've been playing around with that tool as I was very curious about that, and I've come across some nice usability of that as well as some limitations of that. So I'm here today to talk more about that. If you're interested in learning more about it as well, please watch this video till the end and let me know what you think about it in the comment section below. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. That encourages me to create more content like this. So please consider liking and subscribing. With that, let's get started. Okay, so I'm already logged into my Spring 22 preview org. This is only available into the preview org as of now, as next month onwards, Salesforce will start releasing Spring 22 to your sandboxes as well as to your production environment. But if you have a preview org, you can sign into that org now and play around with that if you're interested in playing around like myself. So I'm already signed into that preview org, and as you can see, I have already navigated to Migrate to Flow tool. The easier way to get into that is search using the migrate, search using the migrate keyword in the quick find box at the top over here, or you can navigate to process automation and then click on migrate to flow beta, whichever you prefer. But let's have a look at this tool. Pretty straight away, Salesforce gives you this warning that this is still into a beta release, so use it as per your discretion. You want to test these flows that is migrated in your sandbox environment fully and tested it perfectly before releasing that flow to production. And there are some limitations that we will be looking into migrating as well. But before that, let's look into this tool as well, right? So for your convenience, Salesforce lists down all the workflow rules that exist in your org, regardless of its object or regardless of its status. It will list down all of that over here. As you can see, we have case, user object, opportunity object, multiple case object workflows, as well as one inactive flow. So I kept this inactive deliberately to kind of test it around and see if it only lists all the active flows, active workflows, but it also lists inactive workflow rules in this tool, which is very convenient, right? So in case you have something inactive in your org that you like to convert, you still can use this tool to migrate that to flow. So for you to migrate these workflows to the flow, you simply have to select that particular workflow rule and click on migrate to flow button. So to test this tool, I have created this workflow rule multiple ways. So I'm going to actually open these two case workflow rules in a different tab. So this is notify account owner about new high priority case. And then the second one is set resolution date for. So I have designed this workflow rule in a different scenarios, to test different scenarios. A major difference that you can say pretty straight away is in the criteria, right? So I have created this workflow rule with pretty straightforward formula over here, or sorry, criteria over here, where I'm saying, well, simply check the priority equals high, and then check the SLA equals platinum. Keep in mind that this is a cross-object workflow rule. So, for example, over here, I am actually referencing a parent account's SLA and checking if the parent account SLA is platinum over here. So this is a cross-object. Salesforce workflow to flow migration tool do not support this cross-object workflow rule. So we will see in a second, Salesforce will pretty clearly throw the error regarding that as well. A second workflow rule, which is also on the case object, is to set the resolution date from the premium for the premium support customers. Over here, as you can notice, my criteria is using isPeakWell, and it's actually using a formula. That's another limitation. Salesforce do not support a formula field in the workflow to flow migration yet. So it's hopefully pretty soon they will be releasing the new update to that. But let's have a look, well, what happens if once I select that. So I'm here on Migrate to Flow Beta tool again, and I'm going to actually select resolution date for premium support. And as I said before, we expect to see the error. And here it is. So we can't migrate this workflow rule to a flow. Salesforce's error message is pretty straight. And they are also giving you the reason, saying we can't migrate because yours workflow contains a formula like this. So I'm going to say, got it. Well, we're not going to be able to convert that. And I hope that my expectation is really a lot of the orgs that is old enough out there using complex logic, using formula for complex logic in the workflow rules before the process builder or flow existed. So to my opinion, that's very important functionality. So I'm really hopeful that they will be releasing a next version pretty soon that has resolution for the formulas. Let's take a look at the cross-object one as well. As I said, this will not also not be converted to that. So I'm going to actually select Notify Account Owner, and then I'm going to select Migrate to Flow. This one also is throwing another error, saying we can't migrate this workflow rule because its criteria contains a cross-object reference. So account SLA being the parent account record and SLA field on that is not going to support it. So that's another limitation of this Migrate to Flow. So with that two roadblocks, I was more curious as in well, is it only because the formula contains isPeakWell? So I created this third workflow rule with the different type of formula. So this, I'm going to open this default opportunity name, right? So this is really to set the opportunity name. And over here, I have written basically a simple formula that gets, basically checks if this contains the account.name. So this is kind of mix of both of these previous two workflow rules that we talked about, right? So as you can see, I'm referencing the parent account of the opportunity's name, as well as I'm using not contains. So let's see how this performs, right? So does Salesforce likes this or not? Let's find out. So I'm going to actually go to Migrate to Flow Beta again, set a default opportunity name, and I'm going to click on Migrate to Flow. And actually it's saying we can't migrate this workflow rule to Flow. And they are giving you the reason, saying they can't migrate workflow rule because it contains an unsupported formula. So it's going to be pretty interesting to find out, well, is this because of I'm referencing the parent record, which is kind of a cross-object, or it contains the formula? For my opinion, it's going to fail for both. Well, we have seen this failing for both conditions, but this was kind of an example for mixing of both. So I finally then designed a last workflow rule, which is automatically activating a new user. This is very straightforward, not using cross-object. field not using formula. So let's take a look at that workflow rule real quick. So I'm going to open that workflow rule, and the criteria over here is very simple. No cross object, no formula. It's simply checking if field is active equals false. So pretty straightforward, right? Simple. Same on that. Same object that is triggering this workflow, and then the field update is simply changing from active, from inactive to active if it isn't active. So for that, I'm gonna let's migrate that to flow, right? So for that, I'm gonna go back to migrate to flow screen, select that particular flow, and I'm gonna select that particular workflow, and I'm gonna click on migrate to flow button. And boom. So Salesforce has successfully converted your workflow to the flow. It does have some interesting information on this. So let's spend a minute on this to understand what it's actually saying. You have option to go to you have an option to go straight to that flow builder by clicking on this button, which is very convenient. This also allows you to deactivate. So basically, it's saying deactivate that workflow and activate this flow, right? So what it's saying is switch your workflow rule and flow activation, deactivate your workflow rule and activate your flow, which is, saves you multiple clicks. So I'm going to actually go ahead and do that. That's very time-saving feature. And kind of a warning, not a warning, but for my opinion, it's just a note that they have detected that this workflow rule is updating on the same triggering object. So for them, it makes sense to put it into the before save context. That would be the fastest processing between the workflow and before save flow, right? So as per my previous article that I have on the salesforce.io.com, I will drop a link for you if you're interested in looking into that. But I have compared the CPU time consumption between the workflow and a before save flow. That help. So converting this from a workflow rule and a field update action to the before save flow, it saves a huge amount of CPU time for complex logics and complex flows. So let's take a look at how that flow looks. So very simple, right? The workflow rule was pretty straightforward as well. Similarly, this flow is going to be very simple. I'm going to quickly edit that configuration, the start part, and as you can see, it is set to trigger on record is created or updated, and then entry condition is if the user, all conditions are met, if is active equals to false. When to run the flow for updated record, by default, it's saying only when a record is updated to meet the conditional requirements. And that is all coming from the workflow rule that you have created before, right? So created at any time it's called, edited subsequently meet the criteria, is now translated into the flow over here, and it is selecting the record is created or updated, and then also selecting only when the record is updated to meet the conditional requirement. Fast field updates, that's the before, that confirms the before save version of it. And I'm gonna move these a little over here, and I'm gonna click on done. So that's basically saving, converting the start element. So that's basically your workflow rule itself. So the second part of that workflow rule is a field update, which is update record in Salesforce flow. So I'm going to click on edit element over here, and in the edit element, let's see what it's doing, right? How to find the records to update update and set the values. They're saying use the user record that triggered the flow. So no record ID is being passed. It is a record-edit flow, so it already has the record ID. So we are telling them to use the same record ID, and then condition well, there are no conditions. We want you to update straight away and saying, well, if it is active, set it to true. And the reason behind why we don't have any condition is because we already have a condition in the set, in the start element, which is over here. So there is no need for another condition over here, and we are simply updating from is active to, from not active to active. So for simple workflow rule, this beta tool is certainly going to be very, very helpful. You don't have to decide between before save and after save flow yourself. Salesforce and this particular tool is smart enough to detect what you are actually doing within that particular workflow, and it's going to make that decision for you. You also don't have to decide if I need to do a create record, update record, another action. All of that, as you can see, is Salesforce is capable of deciding it by itself. You do have opportunity to, before activating, you do have opportunity to modify it as per your need. But if you're not, if the time doesn't permit right now, you can straight away activate that flow and then test the user experience and make sure that it performs how the workflow rule was performing. Another huge advantage of migrating from workflow rule to flow, again, is saving a huge amount of CPU time. Before save is the fastest flow of the automation tool that exists for admins. So I highly encourage you to use before save for field updates and simple workflows like this that allows ultimately better user experience and allows user to move faster within your org. So that's it for this tool today. Let me know what you think about these limitations and benefits of utilizing workflow to flow migration tool. Feel free to post, comment if you have any questions, or if you have any opinion about that as well. Please let me know what you think about this tool. Please like this video if you enjoyed the content, and consider subscribing to my channel as well. Thanks again till we meet next time. Bye.